And we're live. Welcome, everyone, to the Connected for Real podcast. I'm Rebbetzin Grossman, and there's a war. I know you didn't expect me to be all like, woohoo, but it is what it is. So let's talk about it. Let's address it. Let's learn what to do about it, and let's learn how to process all of our emotions. There's a lot going on. So if you're not from around here, we're going through history. And something I told someone yesterday was the history books are going to tell us things that we don't even know because there is so much information that we don't have. There is so much that is being held from us and not shared, probably for our own good. And there's just a lot of unknowns. And obviously, because we are in it, we don't know how it ends or where it goes from here. So there's a lot that we're going to find out from those history books. And we're going to be able to tell our kids, hey, I grew up, through this. My daughter, for example, says that she's in 5th grade now, and she has not had a normal year in school since 1st grade. So 1st grade, Corona hit. They had no school for half the year. Then the next year, they didn't start school properly. The next year after that, there was a teacher's strike, and they didn't start school. So we've been going through a lot, but it's okay. Thank God we are resilient, and we're going to get through it. So let's start talking about a little bit of just technical things. Thank God we are together and we're safe. Where I live, there are sometimes sirens, air raid sirens, in which case we have to go to the safest place in the house. We don't personally have a safe room, but we've decided that this middle of the house area that has the most protection is the safest place in the house. So please God, we will be just fine. It's freaky. It's freaky for the children. If you guys know, I have 7 kids, and it is very hard for them to stop everything they're doing, get into the safe room, and watch everybody else just sort of try to figure out what's going on, right? So all the adults are looking at their phones. The other kids are like, oh gosh, what's going on? And they're talking. And so the younger ones are really having a hard time. And we're trying to, as much as we can, help them process and help them release. And I'm going to share with you a little bit of what has been working for us. I'm also going to share with you some of the challenges, especially in the marriage, how, my husband is very in his head and very, he's very smart, and he understands a lot beyond what most people understand. And he has a bigger picture view of history, of what God wants, what the prophets say. And so he is processing all this. And I have to make sure, as his wife and as the mother of the children, to remind him that, not in front of the children, and to try and keep it, a safe place, and the discussions behind closed doors, and maybe, in his own Zooms and lives to his people. So it's been a very interesting journey. We're now, just for you guys who are keeping track, we're in day 4 of the war. So when we woke up in the morning on Saturday, it was a holiday for us. So not only was it regular Sabbath, but it was also the holiday of Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. It's a very happy holiday. It's the holiday of candy. So all the kids were looking forward to going from synagogue to synagogue and hopping around, getting their bags of snacks. And it's one of those like really big times where you wanna be very very active and very movable. Like, you want to be able to go from place to place, and you want to be in places where there's a lot of people, because that usually means that they're prepared for a lot of kids. And my kids went out first, and I was getting ready, and I said I was going to come follow them in a couple of minutes. And suddenly they came running back, and they were freaking out. They said they heard 3 booms, and the lady from one of the neighbors came out of her house and screamed at all the kids, go inside, there's a war. And maybe she said, we're in an emergency or a war or something. Anyway, it doesn't matter what she said. They found out from her. And that was very unfortunate, because it is not the ideal way of finding out about these types of things. But it is what it is, and it's exactly how it needed to happen. I did not know about anything. The kids came in the house freaking out. Oh my God, we have to go to the safe room. And I was like, what's going on? And they were all talking at the same time. Now, just for context, there was my daughter and 2 of her friends who were all 10. There was my daughter who is 5 years old with them. She was following them. My 2.5-year-old was walking behind them trying to catch up. And if I'm not mistaken, nope, he wasn't there. I thought maybe my son was there too, but no. So anyway, so I have my kids, I have kids from other people's kids, and they're all under the age of 10, and they're a group of 5 kids who are all talking at the same time, going, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, each one will get a turn. And I sat there basically therapizing every single one of them, holding them and letting them tell their story of what they heard, and the 3 booms and the lady. And over again, I heard the story a couple of times with all the details and all of its, glory. Eventually, we didn't have any sirens. We just were hearing booms a lot. And so I went and I got my phone. It was charging in the other room, because on Sabbath, I don't use my phone. And so I just leave it to charge, overnight. I went and I got my phone, and I scrolled up with my finger just to see if there was any recent messages, because I know that our local council sends out a message in case of an emergency right away, so that we should know what's going on. And I know that we are allowed to open those messages on Sabbath, even if we never touch phones on Shabbos. This is one of those times where, if an emergency, you do whatever you need to do. So I checked, and there was a recent message, and it said that it was from the council. And so I opened it, and it said, we have been, I guess it said, the Arabs have started a war. We are actively opening up war rooms, which means all of the emergency situation things that have to happen are happening. They said they're not going to be sounding sirens unless specifically needed per town. Okay, so in some places they had, sirens just to let people know the war started. They decided not to sound sirens unless there was something specific that needed a siren for. There are 2 reasons why we would have a siren, and they explained that. One reason would be if there were missiles being thrown at us. Thrown, that's a nice way of saying it. Or the other one would be if there is an infiltration. And they said to be ready for both and to stay safe. So after reading all this, I was like, yes, you guys are right. There is something going on, and it's a good thing you came home, and now we're all here. Let's stay home and eat something. So we right away heated up food and decided to change course completely. The girls who were not my children were very worried about what their parents were going to think or worry, if they weren't home. And I promised them that if there was going to be a siren, which meant something locally was happening, I would physically take the phone and call their parents, even though it was the middle of Sabbath. So they were calm. They were like, okay, I took responsibility for them. And we set the table. We made a gigantic table with all the kids. At this point, we had more neighbor kids who decided to come to us because we are apparently the safe house. I think on an emotional level, that was really fun to notice, that the kids felt safe amongst us, which was very nice. Meanwhile, my husband is in synagogue the whole time with my son. So we had not spoken yet, and there was no communication. But anyway, so we're going through this. We're setting up the table, cutting up salad, heating up the food on the hot plate, and then the kids decided that they wanted to pray, and it was so cute seeing these 10-year-olds and 5-year-olds chanting psalms and praying and just being really, really delicious. Oh, so beautiful. It was like, if anything, that was the thing that saved someone or something. Like, it was so beautiful. And then they decided to pray because, oh yeah, we didn't pray yet this morning. So all of them decided to pray. And it was just a really fun, relaxed environment that I've decided to create as soon as I found out that this was going on. I decided that the more we can keep it calm, the more it's going to help them with later stuff, which is going to probably be harder and worse. Because as soon as Sabbath was over, of course, everybody's going to open up their phones. They're going to start seeing, images. They're going to start talking about things. They're going to start predicting. They're going to start, so it's just expected that this is going to happen. So I tried to keep as much of the safety and the calmness and that atmosphere of we're all okay, we're all together, we're all safe, everything's okay. And basically that's how our day went. The kids ended up going to some of the synagogues that were safe. There was a lot of armed people around because they told everybody with any guns or anything to be ready with it. And they also sent army people to protect the synagogues. And so there was just a lot of people around. And the kids reported seeing men getting on their phones, getting into cars, getting, into the house, and 5 minutes later out of the house wearing uniform. Basically, every man between the age of 18 and 40 was called up to duty on Sabbath. And if they weren't called up on Sabbath, they were called up the next day on Sunday morning. So there was a lot of talk about that. Who went, who didn't go? Oh my gosh, my uncle, my brother, my father, my this, my that. And so that was a lot to process also. Thank God we are, still here. My husband is not called up. So he is volunteering here locally, but a lot of the friends, a lot of the people, and there's a really great support system. We're really a tight-knit community. So they opened up a volunteer service. Teenagers are helping mothers who are left with their kids and the father has gone. Weddings were canceled because the guy was called up on the day of his wedding. There is, a lot of things are changing and a lot of things are happening. And processing all that has been really interesting and part of it. So that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how do we process, what do we do, how do we deal, and we're going to get really, really specific about these things. And then also what you can control and what you can't. So we're going to start with the most important thing. We're living through history, okay? I like that. I like saying that because people are like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. We're doomed, blah, 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 right? Like people like to say things that they're thinking or that they're hearing. And I would like to choose the words we're using. So like we are living through history is a really great way of saying like, this is so big. We're living through something big that people are going to talk about probably for the next 100 years or more, right? Like, we're living through a war that is unprecedented, has never happened like this before. And it's pretty gigantic. Okay, so we're validating the situation, but we're also allowing ourselves to just see it as what it is. It's part of history. And it also means that we're going to live to tell about it. And it's going to be one of those things that anything that you document, anything that you can keep from this era is going to end up being information that the future generations are going to be looking at. So it's also really great to ground us in knowing how to move forward. Okay. There's a lot we don't know. We spoke about that before. There's a lot we don't know. And the problem is that we think that knowing is going to give us a sense of control, a sense of safety, a sense of, groundedness. But in reality, knowing is not always to our advantage, and it's a false illusion, right? Like you think that if I knew what's going on, if I actually knew the truth, if I actually knew all the details, then blah, blah, blah. But like in reality, it's a false sense of control and it ends up draining you. And so stop trying to hold on to information. Stop trying to grab onto images and pictures and stories and, stop. Like really, really, it's not good for you. It's not good for anyone. It is not giving you the sense of control. I guarantee it. You think you're in control, but in reality, your brain is going haywire. Your body is keeping all of this stress. Your emotions are going out of whack. Please stop inhaling all of the noise. Okay, stop consuming all of the drama. Clean up your environment. I am the admin of a WhatsApp group that is a local WhatsApp group. I put a really clear red line right as we started, and I said, you cannot just share random war information. No videos, no story, nothing. You can share anything that has to do with local people. You can share anything that has to do with your personal situation. You can share with us your needs. You can raise your hand and say, I'm lonely, but you cannot drown the community by creating noise. Because what happens is people just forward things and it just goes woo everywhere. And then it's like forwarded many times. Yes, we are aware, right? And we don't necessarily need it. So clean up your environment, become really intentional about what you are consuming. Even if you're not in the war right now, even if you live somewhere else and you are watching it from afar, you are still part of history. You are still living through it. So don't allow yourselves to absorb all of the drama, the negativity, the noise. It is very draining, super draining. Okay, don't get sucked into it. What we can control, let's talk about this because it's really important. You can control your environment. You can control the intake of information, of images, of noise, right? We just spoke about that. You can control the way you process your own emotions, which is really important. We're going to talk about this in detail. And you can control the way you react, which is really the only thing you can control is yourself, right? So somebody told me, if you could just make him stop doing this, that, or if you can just, right? The kids are like, just make her do this or make her stop that. As soon as I get the tools of how to control other people, let me tell you, I will do it. But until then, all I can control is myself. So I will control myself and my reactions. Okay. That was my answer the entire week this week, because it's been a while. It's been a ride. Okay. So let's talk about how to process emotions, because that is really what I want to focus on. And I think it's really important. Why do we need to process emotions? Emotions come in and they either flush through, they go through us, and then everything's fine. For the most part, they get stuck. They get stuck somewhere in your body. Usually they will encapsulate with a lesson or with a belief. And together, lesson, belief, and emotion, they are going to stay in your body in order to protect you in the future. A lot of the traumas we have, a lot of the things that are keeping us back from doing the things we want to do, and this is just in general so you understand, are encapsulated emotions with lessons. There was something I learned. Don't touch fire, it burns. And the emotion of, right, that surprise or that fear or that pain came together with that to remind me. So every time I see fire, I freak out, right? Or every time I hear the siren, I freak out. Why? Because it came together with a lesson of run, be safe, get to the safe place, whatever it was. So there is always that encapsulation, the emotion together with the lesson. What we want to do is separate those, almost like click them apart and say, I don't need the emotion in order to remember the lesson. I'm okay. Okay. And then just allow the emotion to flush through. The lesson is still there. I'm still keeping it. I'm not going to ever forget that I'm not supposed to touch fire. I'm not ever going to forget that I'm supposed to go to the safe room. I'm not ever going to forget that whatever it is, right? Whatever the belief is. But I don't need to be triggered every time. I don't need it to pull me to a 10 in emotion every single time. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to process the emotions, especially when they're fresh and they're coming in and there's a lot piling up. Learn to release them, learn to process them, and learn to move on. And this is, by the way, a really important skills in general, but right now it is urgent that you learn how to process emotions. So, number 1, write, talk, speak, tell, journal. Okay. Obviously, you can make these into 2 categories, the write and journal and the talk and tell, but they are pretty much the same idea. They have found that people who have gone through anything, even if it's just a scare, okay, do not minimize children's scare. It is still a scare. Okay, it is very scary for them. They are living through something right now. And to them, even if it's just a siren or just something someone said or just whatever, it is not just. Okay, so let them talk about it. Where were you before? What's going on? And what happened next? And who said what? And what did you feel? And just sort of help them get it all out, tell the entire story from beginning to end. And then, say, oh, wow, I think you should tell this to Bubby. I think you should tell this to Grandma. I think you should, share this with another person. What happens is that the more you tell it, the more it flushes out of your system, the more that you feel like you don't have to hold on to it. It's not something that is only you and yours. It is something that you were able to share and able to process. Okay. So that's really, really important. Number 2, art. This is something that I turn to a lot. This week has been very, very artistic, but in a very different way. I used to, do like watercolors or painting or whatever, right? Now I have a black pen and a sketchbook or just some paper, and I randomly do some Zen doodles or just, whatever doodle things. There is this really cute idea of tracing a cup over and over again, overlapping, and then any place where they touch, rounding the edges so that you end up having a lot of these really cool shapes. And I've posted a picture on my Instagram if you guys want to see it. Probably one on my Facebook too, because they're connected and they're automated. There's something really special about letting it through you without having to think about it. Just allowing it to come out with a doodle, with a sketch, with even if it's not pretty, even if it's not comprehensible. By the way, this is a great tool for kids. If you say, show me how angry you are, or show me how scared you are, or show me how whatever you are, and you just let them rub, get it all out on the paper. seeing it after they're done gives them such satisfaction. It is like, wow, such a great feeling. Like, yeah, man, that is how I felt. Whew. And then you could take a new paper and say, well, how do you feel now? And now we can draw some flowers, or now we can draw the sun, and now we can suddenly see through all the black and all the darkness, right? So these are ways to process. You could use color, you could use black and white, depending on what makes you feel heard and released, whatever. Really, it's personal, and play with it. Clay. Clay is one of the greatest tools for therapy and for processing. We happen to have a lot of polymer clay because my mother is a teacher, and she makes, well, she was a teacher, and now she has a workshop for making jewelry with clay, with polymer clay. And so we went upstairs and dug up her clay collection, and we started making our own clay things. And I'm telling you, my 5-year-old is coming alive thanks to the clay. She's able to express herself. She's able to put different colors together and mix them and show me how she feels, or what it feels like to feel both emotions at the same time. Things like that. Really, really helpful and really powerful. So I highly recommend it. And thank you, Ima, for letting us use your clay. Next, tapping. Tapping. There is something called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. It's called EFT tapping. If you Google it, if you YouTube it, you will see it everywhere. There is points in your body that you can just tap lightly and allow whatever emotions to, go through and release. A lot of this feels nice. Sometimes you don't even have to understand it. You just let your body do its thing. It feels good to release. It feels good sometimes if you say the thing that you're feeling and you process the emotions while you're talking and tapping at the same time. There are EFT practitioners that help you with this, and I recommend it. It is something that helped me in the past. So definitely one very good tool. Another way of tapping is just regular tapping. Tap your body right here in your chest, in your arms, the sides of your arms, almost like you're giving yourself a hug, but with taps. It really allows your body to release. You can tap your whole body and allow, all the different parts to release. It feels really good. Yesterday, there was a show for kids with a comedian that is specialized in kids, and he told them to touch their face and start massaging their cheekbones and their jaws, and just allowing your jaw to relax because we're holding it so tight. These are things that are just so helpful, and I hope that if you use any of these, even one, you feel a relief, okay? And that's why I am making this podcast, and I'm taking the time because I think it's really important. A great tool that I've heard of recently and I've done in the past, but it reminded me of it when I saw this little video, is the tense and release. So you go from the bottom up, you tense your legs really, really, really tight, or you hold them up, and then you count to 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you let go. And you do that all the way up with your hands, with your fists, with your face. You hold tight, tight, like you're really, really tight, and then you release. As soon as you do that, the release is so much greater because you gave room, you gave space to those negative emotions as well, right? You allowed yourself to tense up on purpose, something that we try to avoid all the time and try not to do and do anyway subconsciously. If you can just tense up and bring all your shoulders up, and hold it, and then release, you breathe so much better. So you can try that. Turn on music and dance. It is so so helpful. Sometimes it helps change the mood in the house. It helps change the atmosphere. If you could just put on a song about believing in God, about how God is great, about how much he's protecting us, whatever, look it up on YouTube. I am sure you will find there are many, many songs. Anything that comes from Psalms, anything that comes from Isaiah. There are so many great songs. I can't even begin. Put something on and start to move. Move with the sounds, move with the music. Allow yourself to release, allow other people to feel comfortable releasing too. Okay. So a lot of times we're like, oh, I'm supposed to hold myself up to hold myself together. Actually, that's not the goal. The goal is to stay together, to create a togetherness. Okay. So we're not trying to stay together, hold ourselves together. Our goal is to unite and be together. And that's okay if you fall apart or if you teach others to allow yourself to release and just, let your body move so that you don't have to hold it all in. It allows other people to do it too, if you can. And if you're not in one of those places where you have to be indoors all the time, please go outside at least once a day, take some breaths, let air and sun do their job. Both air and the sun are disinfectants, and they help you disinfect everything that is going on emotionally as well. So allow it to just wash over you. Allow yourself to go outside. Sometimes I catch myself being inside just because I'm afraid to even venture outside, or I don't want to take the time to put on everybody's shoes and get everybody ready. But even if I just open the door and sit outside for a couple of minutes, it makes such a huge difference. Okay, so I highly recommend going outside if you can, taking some deep, fresh breaths of air, allowing the sun to wash over you. It is very powerful and very helpful for processing emotions. And lastly, pray. Talk to God, bring him into your life. It's not coincidence, right? God is running the show and he wants us to turn to him. So use this opportunity to turn to God and to pray and to think and to allow God to show us how great he is. There's a saying here in Israel, don't tell God how big your problems are. Tell your problems how big God is. And I love that. Instead of turning to God and being like, oh my God, you don't even know. We're going through a war. People are dying and there's so much going on and their stress level and anxiety levels are so high. I just turn and I'm like, you know what? Stress and anxiety, you don't even know. God is running the show and things are going to end up so good. And on that note, I also want to just give you a big picture thing to think about. A lot of times when we become too comfortable with the situation, God has to shake something up for us to realize that actually we were meant for more and we were too comfortable where we were. And I think that's exactly what we got to. We got to a place in history where we have the state of Israel, we have the ability to live here, semi-normal lives. And we're lacking so much, but we're not feeling it on a personal level. We're not asking for it as much as we need to be asking for it. We are lacking God's presence. God does not have a home. His home is destroyed and it is still in ruins. It is not okay and it needs to change. And I think God wants us to realize that this is the next level, that we need to start asking for the ideal and we have to stop being okay with just whatever. It's good enough. God is good enough. We're like, I have a home. My kids are fine. They're comfortable. I make a living, right? It's like, no, 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 no. You could be living a life so much greater. And we as a world and as people and humans, we can be experiencing life on such a higher level of consciousness that God is like, you guys lost it. You got to wake up. You got to start asking for the right things. So I want to remind all of us to start asking for the right things, start asking for God to be king of the world, to show everyone who's in charge, and to get a place that suits his presence, and as a trickle effect affects all of our presences. So we're going to feel a real shift when that shift happens, and I can't wait for it. I think that this is part of it, and I'm very excited about the process of redemption. And now, let's see what else is in my notes. Ooh, donate. Yes, that is another way that you can help yourself, is by helping others. When you stop focusing on yourself and you start focusing on others, you feel better, you fill up, you get out of your own head a little bit. There are, ways to donate blood, donate food, donate, we have a base not far from here, and our entire community is basically feeding 300 people. And so all these women are making pizzas and, supper and soup and whatever. And the soldiers on their way in and out stop there, take food, and continue, where they sit down and eat quickly and then go. And just now, like every day they ask for what they need. Today they asked for all the plasticware, plastic plates, plastic forks, plastic spoons. They're running out of stuff, right? So donate for things like that. Donate blood. I've heard that they are asking for blood. So if you can, definitely go donate. If you are not local and all you can do is donate money, find legit charities and donate. I have one charity I know of. I can post it for you if you'd like. And it feels good. It feels good to be a part of it. So let yourself get out of your own story, get out of your own head, and do something for someone else. It will help you. And don't do just one big thing. I mean, yes, you can always do one big thing, but try to make it a routine thing where you're every day doing something for someone else, donating to, a different cause or the same cause over and over again. It feels good. It feels really good to give. Another way you can give is just by calling and checking in on people. People have sent me messages on Facebook, on WhatsApp, on email. I love it. I'm so grateful to you guys. It really does brighten up your day when you know that somebody's thinking of you. It is so fun. It's so fun to know that you matter. And if you can do that for someone, do it. Pick up a phone or pick up your computer and write quickly, like, hey, how you guys doing? Thinking of you. Those are great. They're great. And I highly recommend you do it. The next one came from a book. It was called Hard to Forget, Harder to Remember. And it was by Ivan. And I don't remember his last name right now. It was a great book, and I met him in person because I designed his cover, and and he was just such an amazing person. He went through the Holocaust, but he was a prisoner of war. He was an American prisoner of war in Germany, I think. Anyway, he told about his experience, and one of the things that I will never forget, he said, we were 4 friends, and right away we decided that we're going to split into pairs, and each one of us has to make sure the other guy lives. And so when we get food, we make sure that guy gets enough food to live. And when we get whatever, a blanket, we make sure he's not freezing to death. And like, whatever you need to do, think of the other guy. And that was the thing that saved his life. It was making sure that he took care of someone else. It is so powerful to take care of someone else and to worry about someone else, because then it takes away from your own stress, anxiety, like worry, like, am I going to live? Am I going to live? It doesn't matter. I need to live so that he lives. So I'm going to make sure that I live so that I can protect his other guy, right? Same thing, by the way, it's totally different situation, but I was pregnant the same time as my neighbor across the street was pregnant, and she was having a harder time. So even though here I am like, poor little me, I'm gigantic and I can't move, but like, oh, she's even more gigantic and she's having more pain and she's so uncomfortable. So suddenly I'm the one who's getting up to get her food when we're at a party, or I'm the one who's sweeping her floor because I feel bad for her. And suddenly it's like, where did I get all this energy from? Like in my own house, I don't sweep the floor. How did I suddenly sweep her floor? And it's the exact same thing. It's when you have someone else to see through, you get the energy you need. And this brings us to, where does energy come from? God. God is the one who gives us the energy. So when you say, oh, I'm so tired, or oh, I just can't, change that to God, help me and fill me up. Okay. I think this has come to an end. I love you all. I don't want to make the podcasts too long, but I do know that this is a big one. I also haven't found anybody else who's talking about it on my podcast feed. So I'm really hoping that this brings light and peace into the world. At least peace, inner peace. On a personal note, I am still working. I do still serve my clients, and I am still showing up, as you see here. So if you are interested in working with me, now would be a great time to join, not only because I have 4 spots available, but also because this is a really, really great time to take care of yourself, to put yourself top priority and really make sure that you're processing emotions properly, that you're not letting the war on the outside affect the little battles and create a war on the inside. So my specialty is marriage and business and the way that they affect each other. I am doing one-on-ones now for 3 months. So if you're interested in focusing on something specific like intimacy or just marriage, or how do I find my purpose, or how do I figure out how to break this, terrible cycle or whatever, these are all things I'm helping women do. So I highly recommend that you reach out and we can talk. When you do reach out, you get a free discovery call and we can figure out if this is right for you and we could see how to proceed. I will never take someone if I don't think that they're right. And I am not the hard selling type of person. So I am very, I give you your space. I walk you through if you need anything. So I invite you to come and work with me. In order to do that, you can email me at advice@connectedforreal.com. And there's no numbers, just letters. Connectedforreal.com, advice@connectedforreal.com. The way you get the replay, by the way, of this show is either by going on YouTube and finding the lives, and the replays are there, or on Facebook or on LinkedIn. And if you wait until tomorrow, you can find it on the Connected for Real podcast, which is where all of my podcasts live. So thank you very much for being here live and asking. And I look forward to working with you. I look forward to seeing you all. And I wish you the ability to control what you can, take deep breaths, and cling to God, because that is all we have. Okay? Don't forget to stay connected for real. I love you, and I will record again next week with hopefully good news and updates. All the best.